Monish, there is just so much happening in the world of AI, and Icertis is at the center of it all. Why don't you tell me a little bit about what is the partnership like with Microsoft, and how is that sort of spanning out in this world?
It was very interesting. Our partnership goes back, as you know,
Yeah.
a long time ago, a decade, more than a decade. And we started when, the cloud was new.
Yeah.
That gave us a competitive advantage like never before, because Microsoft provided us with the tools for the enterprise, safer cloud journeys, and so on.
Yeah.
And it's exactly what is happening with AI,
Yeah.
right? I think the amount of change that AI is bringing into the world, not just the industry, but in our own lives, our personal lives as well, is incredible.
Exactly.
But also making sure that those tools are being used safely and with responsibility is very critical. And Microsoft gave us the tools. That partnership has been so important for us, right? And I think I'm very happy to say we were one of the first ones that actually led with Microsoft AI tools, including the OpenAI API, and then the Microsoft Copilot. But it's been an incredible journey in terms of how these two have come together. Our ISV kind of contract intelligence message coming in with the strength of industry standard leading tools in AI that can make what we dream of reality. I think that's all about that, right? At the end of the day.
Yeah. Given that so much that we have been on this journey together, and totally the partnership that we've had with each other has been super inspiring. With all the tech trends and AI advancements that we see around us, Monish, from your perspective, what will define the industry in the near term, in the mid-term? What do you think will be sort of really defining in the way the industries will change in how they use AI in the years to come?
I'm sure everyone who is listening to this, everyone who has been actually alive in the last 5 years, knows the impact that AI is having in our lives, right? I don't have to say more. I think the big thing there is, how does data get into AI? It's the next stage. You have to have the right data, you have to have the right responsible data that comes in, so that AI can take action. I think that's the next frontier. And a lot of the research is going to make sure, how do I get the right data in the right place, with the right authenticity and the right responsibility, so that AI can actually make quantifiable inputs into how humanity actually prospers. The second part, where data is one thing, but AI needs compute, as we all know. Lots of compute. NVIDIA has become a $3 trillion company, and it's not chance. It is reality. I think what is interesting there is that compute is going to shape how AI is going to be used in the next few years. And that's where, in my mind, quantum computing comes in. Because quantum, if you have to believe some of the numbers that come in with quantum computing, one computer in one place is probably going to be enough to do all the work that all the world's computers are doing today. So it's not going to be a small change. It's going to be a major, completely different change in computing and how compute is going to be done. And that will change the shape of AI. And then the third one, which is very interesting, is if I get the compute and if I get the AI, then of course I need a lot of power to deliver it. And so things like nuclear fusion, things like efficient ways of, alternative ways of harnessing energy and making sure that that energy is cleanly available for AI is going to be the third big research area in my mind, and transformative area in this case, which is going to change the world. And underlying this all, which is probably the most I'm excited about, is that it's AI that's going to help make this. Getting the quantum computer to reality, or sources of energy to be real and efficient. AI is going to play a major part in that.
And bring it back.
And bring it back, exactly. Right? And that will affect medicine, our longevity, that will affect how people perceive and cope up with poverty, education. It's going to affect us everywhere.
This is great. I mean, it's all connected. It's like a loop, right? It's really awesome how it's sort of connecting from one to another, and we are powering and repowering the whole engine back into motion. So why don't we just get to Icertis? I mean, there is a lot that's happening in the ecosystem, in the industry. When we have to speak about what's happening in Icertis, how has this been transformative in the way work is happening at Icertis? How are you touching your customers? How are you touching your stakeholders, your partners, etc. Also the fact, how are you making it quantifiable in terms of the value that you're deriving from this? It will be nice to hear your perspective on that.
No, absolutely. I think more than a decade ago when we started our journey with Microsoft, we were one of the first unicorns that came out of the Azure ecosystem. We embraced the cloud with open arms. We were pioneers at that time. We took contract lifecycle management and we made it core to the enterprise business all across the world. That is exactly what is happening with AI and Microsoft and Icertis today, in my mind. I think we are taking all of the tools that Microsoft provides, including Azure OpenAI, which were one of the first adopters, and then using that to actually take it to customers and say, hey, here are the problems that we've seen you face over the years. And here are tools that will actually now help you solve these problems on the ground. One of the big things of AI has been very interesting for us. If you think about how you apply Gen AI in an enterprise, you have to make sure that the right data goes in there. You have to make sure that the right actions are taken, and you have to make sure there are the right guardrails so that the AI makes sure it takes the right decisions before a human has to be involved. Now, the right guardrails in enterprise language is the contract, because every dollar in and out of the company in any enterprise always has a contract behind it. So if the AI has to take a decision, then it has to go back to the guardrails and say, hey, what is right, what is wrong? What is the right thing, what is the optimum thing? And those rules of business are actually embedded in the contract. So what we've done now, and what we are doing, it's a journey, is to take the power of Gen AI and apply it to not just contract understanding, but to bring the physical world of what is happening in the real world, bring it to the ideal world that the contract defines, and make sure both of them come as close to as possible.
Awesome.
And that has made our customers run their business better. It has optimized their costs, it has optimized the way they look at risk and their governance, and it has also given them new avenues to save money and increase revenue. One of the largest pharmaceutical companies in the world uses AI to actually rationalize their cost processes across their vendors. All over the world, because it's a global company. How do I spend in the US compared to how do I spend in Europe, compared to how do I spend in India? Actually rationalizing this with AI, making sure that you take the best decisions because you're optimizing it for the contract, which is the rules of business, without affecting your business or affecting your business in a very positive way.
I mean, I love the way that you're talking about how this is making sure that the guardrails of operating, and with that you're able to optimize the business effectiveness. I think it's super interesting, and it touches all industries, right? It's any business will require a contract to be the foundation for how they do business. So it's really cool.
I think life also needs contracts, right?
Well said. Well said, absolutely. And you need to be operating in that guardrail, right? I mean, for life to be where it needs to be, you would need to be in the required guardrails. I think, see, this is all interesting and very inspiring in terms of what's happening around us, what's happening within Icertis. How are you leveraging and making it quantifiable, making it value-driven for yourself, outcome-driven for yourself? But I think the key is to ensure that you're able to transform the way people think and the way they come to work, the way they're able to adopt this technology in a way that will become core to them doing work on a daily basis, right? So how are you dealing with that transmission within the organization? How are you making it core in terms of how employees look at operating, and really the whole thing about future of work driven with AI. So how is that sort of coming alive at Icertis?
No, it's a very interesting question and close to my heart, because I think it's the people that drives the business, right? The one asset a software company has is people, and transforming the way they work, transforming how they think is the core of the business, is what makes you successful. With AI, we've seen the same thing. I think, the first time we actually talked about Microsoft Copilot and how we want to embrace it, and that feels like a long time ago, was, hey, I told people, hey, look at my mom, right? She's 82, and I introduced her to Gen AI and a Copilot, and she just took to it, right? She loves it because she uses it for translations from English to Marathi, which is her mother tongue, and she does this for like creating poems and so on.
Wow.
So it's a way to kind of change how you work and how you live. And at Icertis, that's what we have done. We've made sure that everybody gets access to a Copilot license as much as possible, right from the beginning, which was a big investment for us, but we thought the investment was necessary. It's like, you have a technology, it'll take time for it to work, but when it is actually getting to work and getting refined, in the 1.0 version, so to speak, you want to make sure that you get used to it. Because if you try to get used to it when everything is okay, the world has already moved far ahead.
Yeah.
So you want to make sure that you are at the cutting edge, especially as a software company, especially as a technology company. And I think Icertians have taken to it like a horse takes to water.
Awesome.
They love it. Some of the stories that we've seen, we have done a marketing hackathon which was superbly successful. People came up with so many ideas. They wrote their own Copilots using Copilot Studio. They built these small apps that actually turned mundane stuff to very interesting stuff.
Right.
Just that conversion. And coupled with all of that storytelling actually makes a sea change in terms of how people think. And now, I must say this. I think I see right from Samir and his directs at our topmost exec leadership, I see researcher being like, oh my goodness, it's like an eye-opener.
Yeah.
Everybody's using it. Everybody's raving about it.
Yeah.
Because it's your data, and then you let the Copilot loose on your data with a very specific question, and then you get a very detailed, response that would take usually weeks to put together.
Yeah.
And it's amazing. It's amazing how much you save. It's amazing how much less painful work you have to do and focus on the creative. And I think it's just changing how we work.
Yeah, awesome. I mean, I love the fact that you brought in researcher and there is employees around are using it, because that's really the power, right? I mean,
absolutely.
The insight that can bring into making sure that the mundane part of your work is taken away and you actually doing the creative work. Very well said. So Monish, any other interesting examples? I mean, anything that you've seen around you, how AI is sticking in the way we are now, not just working, but also, beyond work. Anything that you would like to share around that?
One interesting thing, technology always falters when it is at the beginning, right?
Yeah.
And AI is, it has the ability to surprise today. The first time user that goes in and uses Copilot has a sensation of wow, right? It's something interesting. But when you actually start applying it to real world problems, sometimes there can be friction. And I remember, long time ago when phones came in, I was in the Bay Area and I had a Motorola phone that you put in a car,
those
right?
Big ones,
was a car, big ones, right? The huge ones. And you couldn't take them away. They were actually tethered to the car. But they were still mobile because you were actually driving around with a phone, and that was unheard of. And people used to ask me, my friends, why are you doing this? It's so painful. Who is going to call you in the car? Your commute is maybe 40 minutes. And what's the big deal? It's your wife calling to say, I love you. I hope so. And they used to say, why? And I said, you know what? This is something that's going to change the world. I better be used to it as quickly as I can. And I think that's exactly what AI is at today, right? How do you get used to a technology that is going to definitely change your life? Right? No question about it. How do you get used to it, the nuances? How do you be part of that evolution? And that has to be with adoption. That has to be with early adoption, with a lot of patience. It's a journey. It's never a step change. Life changes. When you snap your fingers, never happens that way. But AI is probably at a level where that rate is going to be the fastest we have ever seen before, and that makes it very interesting for me.
I would say it's not just being used to it; it's actually defining it. I mean, if you are ahead on the curve, you're defining the technology as you use it.
Absolutely.
So I think that's the power of really being ahead on the curve. You truly sort of define how the next few years and the next generations will actually use it.
Absolutely,
so awesome.
100%. And that's why I think when ChatGPT came on the scene, it was the fastest to million users, fastest ever for any app, right? And then now it's hundreds of millions of users. And Microsoft Copilot, when it came in, I remember, we were like 2 people in the company using it, and before we knew it, there were hundreds, right? And they were all excited about it, and they got it to work, and so on and so forth. And I'm sure all of that feedback came back to Microsoft, and they said, okay, let's figure this out. And probably researcher came out of that too. Right?
Exactly. Yes.
It's just fantastic, how life has changed with that.
In fact, we've actually had an update almost every other day, right? So there has been just so many updates in the last few quarters, all because of all the usage and all the feedback loop that's coming back to us.
No, so absolutely. And look at the top-down pressure as well in terms of making this happen, right? Because I remember I was talking to someone in SQL Server in the product team, and they said, Monish, don't come to me with future requests right now. Satya is saying just focus on Copilot. We want to have Copilot in every shipment that we do, right? Every product ship that we do. So we are focused on that. So getting that focus, getting it done was also very important, right? In these times, because sometimes you have to push to make change happen, where not everybody sees the potential, not everybody sees the opportunity, not everybody sees the effort that it will take to actually get a new technology to change the world.
Absolutely.
And I'm glad Microsoft and Icertis are doing it together.
Yeah, absolutely. Our pleasure. Always, nothing like this partnership. So with that, we close. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Appreciate it.